The morning sky over Manhattan was brushed with the kind of soft gold that made everything look like a dream. Madison Avenue buzzed with the elegance of wealth, but Ava Sinclair didn't look like she belonged not to anyone watching. She stepped into Maison Eloria, the most exclusive bridal salon in the city, where the air smelled like jasmine and old money. Chandeliers sparkled overhead and designer gowns whispered luxury from every rack. The boutique was a temple to couture only. The elite were welcome. Ava wore beige culottes, a plain cotton blouse, and flats that had seen better days. Her chestnut hair was pulled back into a low bun, her face clean but radiant with only a touch of rose on her lips. She carried a canvas tote over one shoulder, no logos, no shine. To the world, she looked like a woman who had wandered in by. Mistake, 4 women in sleek black dresses stood by the reception mid-conversation. Their polished heels clicked on marble as they turned to Ava. The tallest, Bianca Morgan, arched a sculpted brow. "Can we help you?" she asked, her tone silk-lined with disdain. Unfazed, Ava smiled and held up her phone. "I'm here for my fitting, Ava Sinclair, 11 a.m. Bianca glanced at the screen, then back at Ava's outfit. A smirk twitched at her lip. "Our gowns start at $80,000, she said coolly. "This is a private atelier, no walk-ins." The other 3, Riley Chun, Harper West, and Kendall Blake, exchanged amused glances. Riley leaned forward, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. She probably hacked someone's email. "Happens more than you think." "I placed the order 6 months ago," Ava replied calmly. "Custom ivory silk, diamond embroidery." Bianca's eyes narrowed. "Sweetheart, we don't cater to thrift store tourists." She gestured at Ava's culottes as if swatting away a fly. Kendall snorted, pulling out her phone. "This is gold," she muttered, already live-streaming. Her caption read, "Stranger in clearance clothes crashes bridal fitting." Comments poured in instantly. "Get her out." "Who let the maid in?" "She thinks she belongs here?" Ava stood still, her canvas tote resting by her hip. She didn't raise her voice. "May I speak to the manager?" Bianca laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "I'm the manager. And trust me, you're not on our client list." She nodded toward Riley and Harper. They began flanking Ava like security guards at a nightclub. Her path to the racks was quietly blocked. Then came the dagger. A woman in a mink coat stormed in Celeste Monroe, Upper East Side royalty. Her heels clacked like a gavel as she took one look at Ava and sneered. "Who let this riffraff in?" She spat, her diamond earrings swaying with rage. She stepped forward and flicked Ava's blouse with a manicured nail. "This is couture, not goodwill." The staff laughed. Riley clapped. Kendall filmed it, all her viewers cheering her on. "She should be arrested," one commenter wrote. "Bet should cry any second now," another added. Still, Ava didn't flinch. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. The boutique's heavy velvet curtains framed her like a portrait simple. Composed, wrongfully judged. Bianca smirked. "Try department store next time, darling." Ava walked out into the Manhattan breeze as the glass doors closed behind her, silent, but not defeated. Within hours, the livestream had gone viral. Page 6 ran the headline, "Mystery Woman in Beige Crashes Bridal Salon." Vanity Fair dubbed her the delusional dreamer. The Daily Mail was crueler, faux pas and flats fashion's funniest crash yet. Nobody knew her name, but they thought they knew her shame. By nightfall, the name Ava Sinclair still meant nothing to the world, but the image of Beige Girl was everywhere. Her live-streamed humiliation at Maison Eloria had become an online spectacle. Social media exploded with memes that flew faster than any truth. One photo showed Ava's simple culottes photoshopped onto a red carpet. The caption, "When you RSVP but forget the dress code." Another had her tote bag superimposed over a designer clutch. Chanel? No, canvas chic. Kendall Blake's original video had reached 2 million views and climbing. Fashion influencers reposted it with savage commentary. Celebrities jumped into the trend for laughs. Ava's quiet grace had been edited into punchlines. "She's clearly delusional. Thinks she's an heiress in disguise. TikTok Cinderella if the fairy godmother never showed up." Tabloids joined the frenzy. Page 6. Mystery woman denied dress fitting after crashing elite boutique. Who is she? Vanity Fair. The delusional dreamer, a case study in couture imposters. The Daily Mail, fashion faux pas or fame seeker? The speculation was merciless. The truth didn't matter. The myth of the clueless wannabe was far more entertaining than reality. And Ava? She didn't post a rebuttal. She didn't defend herself. She didn't say a word because she didn't need to. She was busy boarding a private jet. 2 days later, a quiet storm brewed in the French countryside. The sprawling 17th century estate of Chateau Lumiere basked in the morning sun, its gardens blooming with lavender, roses, and secrets. Marble fountains whispered, and golden gates opened only for the world's most powerful. This wasn't just a wedding, it was an event of mythic proportions. Gillian Cross, media mogul and billionaire heir to Cross Global, was getting married. 32, mysterious and wildly influential, Julian had turned his family's old-world publishing empire into a modern global titan. And he kept his fiancée's identity under such tight security the press had only rumors to report. Probably a European princess, Vogue speculated. Or a tech heiress in hiding, whispered Harper's Bazaar. No way she's American, Elle concluded. Too low profile. But the guest list? A who's who of fashion, fame, and influence. Designers, editors, supermodels, tech giants. Viral INFLU ENCER Maison Allure staff had all received gilded invitations, including Bianca Morgan, Riley Chun, Harper West, and Kendall Blake. Their presence was a mystery. But they assumed it was thanks to their viral clout. Kendall, now boasting over 50,000 new followers, arrived in a crimson gown. Phone already filming. This is my redemption arc, she whispered to Riley, who wore emerald silk and a smug grin. Bianca glided through the gates in sapphire velvet, name-dropping to anyone who'd listen. Harper quiet, tentative, wearing black lace trailed behind, her eyes watchful. The courtyard dazzled with opulence. Waiters floated by with champagne. A quartet played Vivaldi beneath garlands of white lily. The whispers were already brewing. Who's the bride? Why the secrecy? What's Julian hiding? And then? The energy shifted. A ripple ran through the crowd. Gasps. Phones raised. Eyes widened. Ava Sinclair had arrived. Same beige tone, same minimalist dress. But this time she walked with a quiet strength that couldn't be ignored. No makeup. No jewelry. Just scuffed flats and soft waves falling around her face. To the crowd, it looked like a joke. To her, it was just the beginning. Ain't no way, Kendall hissed, her camera lens zooming in with trembling fingers. That's her. That's the beige girl. The moment Ava Sinclair stepped through the grand gates of Chateau Lumiere, time seemed to stop then shatter. The influencers were the first to react. Talia Rain, a fashion vlogger with 1 million followers, nearly tripped on her lavender gown as she rushed forward, her phone aimed like a weapon. She'd get lost on the way. To a farmer's market? Talia jeered. She thinks she's the bride or something. Next came Ezra Dale, cufflinks flashing under the spring sun. Maybe she's here to refill the champagne, he said with a sharp grin. He snapped a photo, adding a filter that made Ava's beige linen look dirtier than it was. Laughter rippled outward. Kendall's live stream surged 30,000 viewers, then 40,000. She's back, y'all, she narrated gleefully. And it's even worse this time. Bianca Morgan watched with narrowed eyes and a venomous smirk. She really doesn't learn. Riley Chun laughed loud enough to draw stares from the violinist. Is she crashing again? In that? Even Harper West, hesitant and quiet, stood frozen, her fingers tightening around her clutch. But Ava? Ava stood still in the center of the courtyard, the gentle breeze playing with her hem. Her eyes, warm hazel and unreadable, scanned the crowd not for validation, but for clarity. She declined a waiter's tray of champagne with a nod so poised it silenced him. She doesn't even flinch. Someone whispered. She's probably here to steal a gown. A bold intern near the marble fountain said. Her name was Tessa, sharp-eyed and younger than the rest. She pointed at Ava's tote like it was a weapon. Security needs to handle this, Kendall announced, loud enough for her stream. 50,000 viewers. 60,000. Just then, a half-eaten macaron flew through the air, thrown by one of the interns. It struck Ava's dress, leaving a sugary pink stain across the beige linen. Take that back to Brooklyn. Someone taunted, phones, laughter, flashes, hashtags, all of it. Hash beige girl beatdown. Hashtag bridal crush PT2 hashtag not the bride. Ava didn't blink. She simply brushed off the crumbs with quiet, deliberate grace, every motion controlled, every breath steady. You're embarrassing yourself, Riley said as she circled her like a predator. Again. You're ruining the vibe, Talia added. This is an actual event. Bianca stepped forward, heels slicing across the cobblestone like blades. You don't belong here, she said sharply. Security. Kendall's phone tilted toward the unfolding scene. 7000. Viewers, you think this is your wedding? Bianca's voice rose above the quartet's music. You're delusional. Ava turned her gaze to Bianca. Calm, composed. I'm invited, she said quietly. Check the list. Bianca rolled her eyes, signaling a tall guard. Hugo, the man in the earpiece, approached with arms crossed. Ma'am, I need to ask you to leave. Ask for Julian, Ava said softly. He'll explain. The name hit like thunder. For a second, the crowd faltered. Bianca hesitated, then barked out a laugh. Julian Cross? You're dreaming. S. Hugo reached for Ava's arm, gentle but firm. The storm reached its peak. Renzo Vale, avant-garde designer and couture tyrant, approached the scene. His silk scarf fluttered in the breeze like a battle flag. This is why we gatekeep, he said, loud enough for the live stream. He stepped forward, his cologne sharp and suffocating, and tossed a cocktail napkin at Ava's feet. You are a mockery of style, he sneered. The crowd erupted again, phones raised. Cameras flashing. Talia and Ezra joined the chant, their voices gleeful. No taste, no place. Send her to the cheap seats. Kendall's stream hit 80,000. That's when Sarah Verma, golden gown glittering, elbowed her way through the crowd. Her voice cracked through the chaos like a whip. She's scamming us all, Sarah shrieked. Sneaking in like she belongs. She grabbed a glass of rose from a tray and flung it in Ava's face. The pink wine splattered across the beige dress, trickling down Ava's legs, soaking into the fabric. Gasps, screams, cheers, 90,000 views. Ava wet to drop from her cheek. No. Tears. Just fire. Still, she said nothing. She didn't yell. Didn't run, because she knew something. They did in single quotes T. She'd walked into the lion's den not to plead for respect, but to claim what was already hers, and in the next chapter. They would all find out. Ma'am, you need to leave, Hugo repeated, gripping Ava's elbow as the crowd watched, hungry for a final blow. Bianca Morgan crossed her arms, victorious. Take her through the side gate. Less embarrassing. Kendall Blake's livestream hit 100,000 viewers. Talia Rain cackled beside Ezra Dale, who waved at the camera like a celebrity walking the red carpet. She really thought she could fake her way into a billionaire's wedding. Renzo Vale smirked, should be trending by dinner. Hashtag beige bride fail. The crowd swelled with cruel excitement. Phones captured every second. The air buzzed with ego and schadenfreude. But Ava Sinclair didn't fight the guard. She walked beside him with the poise of royalty. Every step calm, measured. Just before the gate, she turned her head and said firmly, but without anger, Ask Julian Cross. Hugo paused. Bianca barked, Oh, for God's sake, just... But Hugo had already raised his radio. A beat passed. Then another. Suddenly, his earpiece crackled. His eyes widened. He stopped walking. He turned to Ava. Wait here. Ma'am, gasps whispered like wind through the crowd. Wait, what? No way. Bianca's jaw tensed. He wouldn't. Then the courtyard doors of the chateau opened. And there he was. Julian Cross. Dark hair. Perfectly tailored suit. Eyes that could melt or command a room. He stepped onto the terrace with the stillness of a storm. About to break, the crowd quieted instantly. Every camera turned. Julian's gaze scanned the sea of guests and locked onto Ava. His expression didn't falter. Didn't question. He descended the stairs in 3 long strides and stopped in front of her, without a word. He reached for her hand and kissed it. Then, his arm slipped around her waist with a familiarity that made jaws drop. The crowd was stunned. Into silence. Julian's voice rang through the courtyard. Low but undeniable. This is Ava Sinclair, he said, loud enough for all to hear. My fiancé. Gasps, audible staggering, Bianca stumbled back, nearly knocking over a flute of champagne. Riley froze mid-sip. Kendall's phone began to shake in her hand, her live stream still climbing 200,000 viewers. No. No, she whispered. Talia's lavender gown suddenly felt like a joke. Ezra's confident smirk dissolved into a stiff grimace. Julian turned to face the sea of pale, painted faces. We've been engaged for 2 years. We kept it private because she asked me to. His voice was steady, calm, but every word was a knife. Not because she's ashamed, but because she's stronger than any of you could ever understand. He looked down at Ava and squeezed her hand, and because she didn't want the circus. Behind them, the chapel doors opened again. Claire Navarro, Ava's chief of staff, stepped forward in a gray suit. Holding a glowing tablet, Julian's next words sent shockwaves through the glittering courtyard. She's also the founder and CEO of Eve. A pause, then shrieks, gasps, Eve? The Eve? The minimalist fashion empire that had taken over the industry in 3 years, runways, red carpets, magazines? The brand that no one knew the face behind? Eva looked straight ahead, serene. Julian's voice never faltered. No investors, no connections. Just her laptop, her vision, and a Brooklyn studio. Eve is valued at $10 billion. And yesterday, she became the controlling owner of Maison Eloria. Bianca's legs buckled. Riley dropped her clutch. Talia nearly dropped her phone. Ezra took a shaky step back. Kendall's stream hit 300,000 as she whispered, "No way." Ava took a small step forward, her stained beige dress now a symbol of quiet destruction. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't. Tea glowed. She simply turned to Claire. Name them. Claire's voice was ice. Bianca Morgan. Riley Chun. Kendall. Blake, for orchestrating and live streaming the harassment. Ezra Dale. Talia Rain, for amplifying it. Renzo Vale, for public defamation. Sarah Verma, for physical assault. Bianca gasped. You can't do this. Julian's eyes narrowed. We are doing this. Guards moved in, swift and professional. Kendall screamed as her phone was confiscated. 400,000. Viewers watching her downfall in real time. This is illegal. I have rights. I'm an influencer. You're done, Claire said, calm as ever. Bianca's sapphire gown snagged on a chair as she was dragged toward the exit. Riley followed, weeping. Ezra shouted threats. Talia screamed about her millions of followers. And Sarah? Sarah tried to bolt, but her gown caught on a rosebush. It tore audibly. Her gold bracelets clattered to the stone. You can't do this, she shrieked, but no one listened, and Ava never looked back. Inside the chateau's grand hall, time held its breath. The ceiling stretched high above in swirling frescoes of cherubs and gold leaf, and the floors gleamed like mirrors beneath thousands of flickering candles. Long tables were set with orchids and crystal, yet none of it mattered now. The guests didn't sit. They stood in stunned silence, still reeling from the revelation outside. Whispers rose like smoke. She's Eve's founder? She owns Maison Eloria? How did we not know? Ava Sinclair's name now rang louder than any Brandon. The room. Kendall Blake, Bianca Morgan, Talia Rain, Ezra Dale, Sarah Verma all escorted out. Their screams and protests muffled behind the chateau doors, followed by the shutter sounds of paparazzi catching every tear-streaked humiliation. Outside, headlines formed in real time. Mystery bride is billion-dollar fashion queen. Maison? Eloria boss fired by bride, she mocked. The beige girl just bought the industry. Inside, the air shifted again. The string quartet began to play a gentle, reverent tune. And then the doors to the ceremonial hall opened wide. Ava Sinclair entered, but this time she wasn't in beige. She wore the gown. The one she had designed. The very same one she was forbidden to try on days earlier. Ivory silk cascaded over her like a waterfall of moonlight. The bodice embroidered with delicate diamonds that captured the candlelight and set her ablaze. Almé, Train whispered across the marble behind her. Her hair was swept up, pinned with a single diamond clip. No veil. No pretense. She didn't need it. Her power wasn't in what she wore, it was in how she walked. Next to her, Julian Cross stood tall and proud, offering his hand like a vow before the vows. Together, they stepped forward. The crowd parted instinctively. Not out of deference, but awe. The ones who had mocked her looked away, their certainty crumbling under the weight of truth. Others watched breathless, realizing they were witnessing the rebirth of an industry one footstep at a time. Harper West, still inside, covered her mouth in stunned silence, tears welling in her eyes. She'd always sensed Ava wasn't ordinary, but she never imagined this dot at the altar. Julian turned to the crowd. His voice was low, but it thundered. This is Ava Sinclair, my wife. He let the silence settle. We planned this day in secret for 2 years, not for fame, not for spectacle, but because this was ours. He turned to Ava. She nodded slightly, her expression unreadable but radiant. Julian looked back at the sea of powerhouses and whispered, "Opportunist." She asked me to keep her name out of the press, not because she was hiding, but because she knew what would happen if this world saw her before it was ready. He paused. She's not just the founder of Eve, she built it from a Brooklyn studio, with no investors, no famous friends, and no handouts, and now she's about to take it public. $1.2 billion. She owns the fashion industry. The Ines do you fee boy? Crowd didn't breathe. Julian's voice sharpened, cold as glass. And Maison Aloria? As of yesterday, Ava is its majority owner. A gasp rippled like a wave across the guest. Claire Navarro, standing to the side, gave a slight nod confirming it all. Bianca's empire had been signed over while she was still mocking. Eva's blouse, cameras from the press previously held at bay now rolled with urgency. Phones buzzed across the room. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, every platform lit up. #Ava Sinclair, #Eve's Queen, #The Bridal Reckoning, and then Ava stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but every syllable was a stone dropped into still water. This isn't about revenge. The room hushed. It's about respect. I created Eve to design for everyone. But the deeper I went, the more I saw what this industry does to anyone who doesn't fit its mold, who doesn't speak its language, wear its labels, walk its line. She turned to the audience, her gaze steady, sweeping over their stunned faces. That ends now. Her words fell like petals and like thunder. Maison Aloria will merge with Eve. There will be no more gatekeeping. No more humiliation, no more cruelty. Fashion will be for every woman, not just the ones you deem worthy. She turned slightly, her eyes locking with Harper West, who stood trembling at the end of the aisle. And to those who judged me, learn this: kindness costs nothing, but cruelty has a price. Then she turned back to Julian. He held her hand in both of his voice a breath against the quiet. You changed the game tonight, he whispered. Ava smiled, not shyly, but like a woman who knew she had rewritten the rules. No, she replied, we did. And as they faced the efficient Father Julian, an elderly Frenchman with silver hair and kind eyes, the vows began. The world outside spun mad with updates. Inside, time paused. Ava vowed to love Julian with fierce grace. Julian vowed to protect her brilliance, not box it in. And when their lips met, it wasn't just a kiss. It was a declaration. The girl they laughed at had become the woman they'd never forget. As the final vows echoed through the candlelit hall, a soft rain began to fall outside the Chateau Lumiere, gentle, cleansing, almost poetic. Inside, the reception was already beginning. Lanterns flickered to life in the courtyard gardens. The quartet shifted to a softer melody. Waiters moved like shadows, with trays of champagne and lavender sugar cakes, but the real storm was hitting elsewhere. Claire Navarro, efficient as ever in her gray suit, approached Ava Sinclair quietly during the first dance. It's done, she said, holding up the tablet. Maison Aloria's merger was announced 10 minutes ago. Staff terminations finalized. Press releases sent. Ava nodded once, not looking away from Julian Cross, who held her gently as they moved across the marble floor. Claire added, investors are calling you a revolutionary. Good, Ava said softly. Let's keep it that way. Meanwhile, across the internet, the takedown went viral in real time. #Ava Sinclair, #Eve Rising, #beige was royalty in seconds. A new wave of headlines hit. Bride turns tables, buys the boutique that shamed her. Billion-dollar CEO revealed at secret wedding. The industry just got rewritten. And the other side? They burned. Bianca Morgan was caught sobbing outside the estate gates, her sapphire gown dragging in the mud, her mascara streaked in every paparazzi photo. Her desperate cries, "I built Aloria," only made the headlines more brutal. Former manager ejected by new owner. Her social media turned on her. Followers unfollowed by the thousands. Brands pulled out. Investors vanished. Riley Chun followed behind, trying to cover her face with her hands. The green silk of her gown wrinkled and torn. Kendall Blake, once a queen of the livestream, had her phone confiscated. Her 800,000 viewers watched her final clip, panic in her eyes, a guard in the background, and a single comment that read, "This aged like milk." Talia Rain tried to rally. "I'm Zara," she shouted to the press before being swallowed by security. Her voice cracked as her name lost all value in the wind. Ezra Dale, usually composed, stammered to no one in particular. "I didn't know who she was, but the cameras didn't care." He was just another punchline in a narrative now owned by Ava Sinclair. Sarah Verma, dripping in what remained of her gold gown, tried to storm away. But the rose bush she caught earlier tore another line through her dress, and her fall from grace was sealed when her heels snapped in front of a dozen reporters. Flashbulbs went wild. "Smile, Sarah," someone yelled. She didn't. She couldn't. Her tech empire's shares plummeted within the hour. Her brand deals were paused. Her name trended not as a pioneer but a warning. #SAIR falls. #kindness is luxury back inside the reception. A different kind of celebration unfolded. Julian and Ava moved through the gardens hand in hand, greeting guests who now bowed their heads and chose their words more carefully. The champagne flowed. The music played, but the weight of change lingered in the air like perfume. Near the central fountain, Harper West stood alone, her black lace dress damp from the earlier mist. Her fingers twisted the stem of her wineglass. Ava approached her. Gently, "You apologized," she said. "That mattered." Harper looked up, eyes glassy. "I didn't know who you were." Ava placed a hand lightly on her arm. "You don't need to know someone's name to be kind." Harper exhaled, a quiet sob escaping her. "I was silent." "You were the only one who paused," Ava said. "That's enough to begin." A small smile flickered between them. Then Ava added, "Eve Bridal is launching next quarter. It needs a face. I'd like it to be you." Harper's breath caught. "Me? You saw me," Ava said, "when no one else did." And in that moment, the world shifted again, not through revenge, but redemption. As the evening deepened and the last guests trickled from the gardens, Julian and Ava stood together at the edge of the chateau. The French countryside stretched endlessly before them. Stars blinked into view. Julian brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "You didn't just change the game," he murmured. "You changed everything." Ava looked up at him, her hazel eyes catching the light of 1,000 quiet revolutions. "We did," she said. "Together. No more gates. No more cruelty. No more pretending not to see. The girl in beige had become the queen in ivory without ever changing who she was." The stars scattered across the velvet sky above. Chateau Lumiere felt almost deliberate, like witnesses to something larger than a wedding. Inside, the last of the reception music faded into the night, replaced by laughter and candlelight drifting from the garden. But the real moment was no longer public. It was quiet. Private. Powerful. Ava Sinclair and Julian Cross stood at the edge of the estate, their silhouettes framed by moonlight and rose hedges. The sprawling vineyard below glimmered with dew. He rapped, his arms around her from behind, chin resting gently on her shoulder. "You realize," Julian murmured, "you didn't just walk back into that world today." "I rewrote it," Ava finished, softly. He smiled against her skin. "They'll be talking about this for decades. They'll be designing policies to prevent another Ava Sinclair from slipping through the cracks unnoticed." She added with a wry smirk, "They won't succeed," he replied. "Because kindness can't be regulated." Ava turned to face him. The fire in her hazel eyes still burned steady and alive, not with anger, but purpose. "Fashion should never be a mirror only for the privileged," she said. "It should be a window for every girl who's ever been told she's not enough." Julian nodded. "And now you own the window, the mirror, and the frame." In the weeks that followed, Eve Bridal launched with a message the industry couldn't ignore. Every woman deserves beauty, dignity, and a dress that fits not just her body, but her story. Harper West became the face of the new line, graceful, humble, and utterly real. Campaigns featured women from all walks of life: farmers, teachers, single mothers, cancer survivors, and veterans. Dresses were made in inclusive sizes, designed to shine without the need for glitter. Mason. Aloria was completely restructured. The new staff included former streetwear designers, interns who once couldn't afford design school, and boutique tailors who'd been overlooked by high fashion. The brand now operated under a singular mission: elegance without exclusion. And the industry? It trembled. Public apologies flooded in from magazines and influencers who had joined the ridicule. Most were too late. Kendall Blake went dark online. Bianca Morgan tried to relaunch under a new name no one followed. Sarah Verma's company was acquired for half its valuation, her board citing public backlash and reputational risk. Ezra Dale and Talia Rain faded into obscurity, their brands abandoned by sponsors. But Ava? She never clapped back. She never dragged anyone. She just kept building. Months later, on a quiet morning in Brooklyn, Ava walked alone past her old neighborhood bakery. The sun was low. Her hair was tied back in a simple braid. She wore flats, jeans, and a cotton blouse. A young girl, no older than 10, stared at her from the corner. "You're the beige lady," the girl said shyly. "From the wedding." Ava crouched down, smiling. "You remember that?" The girl nodded. "You looked like me." Ava's smile deepened. "Good." Then she opened her tote and pulled out a sketchbook, a rough design for a new line. She handed it to the girl. "Want to help me finish this one?" The girl gasped. "Really?" Ava winked. "We design for everyone now, starting with you." Back at Chateau Lumiere, Julian looked through the open doors of his studio. Waiting for her return, he didn't need grand halls or flashing cameras. He just needed her. And when Ava walked in, still carrying the weight of empires and the lightness of grace, he crossed the room, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You're not just the future of fashion, Ava. You're its soul." She smiled, not because she needed his words to know her worth, but because they came from the only person who never judged her by what she wore, but by how she stood tall when everyone else tried to shrink her. And that's how a woman once mocked. In beige became the queen in ivory without ever changing who she was. She didn't shout, she didn't bow. She simply walked through fire and lit the way for others. Forever.